The recall protocol. 8 years. That's how long I gave to Ashbridge Solutions. 8 years of early mornings, sleepless nights, missed holidays, and birthdays forgotten in the glow of a laptop screen. I was their top systems architect. The eyes, one they called when everything caught fire, and I always put the flames out, until the day they decided to burn me instead. It happened on a cloudy Wednesday. I'd spent the morning reviewing final integration reports for Nexus Core, the AI-driven platform I had designed from the ground up. After months of refinement, it was ready, stable, intelligent, days away from investor launch. It wasn't just software. It was my legacy. Then at 3:15 p.m., an email arrived. Subject: urgent. A meeting with Charles, the CEO, and Margaret from HR. No context. No explanation. My stomach dropped. The hallway to the conference room was familiar. On the left, the hum of the servers I'd configured to run our infrastructure. On the right, photos of company milestones. Every photo featured Charles. None featured me, even though I had been there for every single one. Charles sat at the head of the conference table, fingers steepled, eyes gleaming. Margaret flanked him, quiet and unreadable. "Tessa," Charles began, reciting from a script. "We appreciate your contributions, but the company is moving in a new direction. Effective immediately, your role is being dissolved. No thanks, no warning, just 6 words that rewrote the past 8 years. Your services are no longer needed." I didn't react. Silence unsettles people more than anger. "Would you like my laptop now?" I asked calmly. Margaret blinked. "Yes, that would be ideal." I placed it gently on the table, stood, and turned to Charles with a small smile. "Good luck with the investor meeting tomorrow," I said. "Without me." He raised an eyebrow. "We'll manage." I smiled wider. "Let's hope so." As the elevator descended, the brushed steel doors closed behind me, and the countdown began. System failure in 9 minutes. What no one in that boardroom knew was this: Nexus Core had a built-in failsafe. A silent integrity check triggered if my credentials were removed. Not to destroy, but to defend. I hadn't just built Nexus Core. I had protected it from them. 6 months earlier, I noticed strange activity, server pings at 2 a.m., file copies, altered logs. Traced it to an account tied to Charles's assistant. I didn't confront him. I built a hidden shell around Nexus Core instead. An invisible fortress only I understood. They thought they were cutting me out. They were cutting out the only person who could make the system breathe. Outside, the sky had darkened, reflecting the storm building inside Ashbridge. Upstairs, they toasted my exit. Downstairs, the clock ticked toward collapse. Minute 1, critical authentication error. Minute 3, systems looped. Minute 6, alerts flooded the ops dashboards. Minute 9, crash, total, unrecoverable, silence on every screen. Tomorrow was the investor demo. And now, their crown jewel didn't recognize them. At 5:12 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Tessa, it's Eli, the lead systems engineer. One of the few good ones. You didn't hear this from me, but it's chaos. Systems down. Charles is losing it. They think it's sabotage." I sipped my tea. "And what do you think, Eli?" He paused. "I think you built something too smart to be handled that recklessly. I think Charles finally figured out what happens when you burn the person holding everything together." "They're going to call you," he added. "They have no choice." He was right. 10 minutes later, I got another call. Rachel, Charles's assistant. "Charles would like to speak with you," she said stiffly. "It's urgent. A car is on the way." I laughed. "Tell him I'm busy, maybe tomorrow." By 7 p.m., the man himself called. "Tessa, Charles said, trying to sound casual. We've had a hiccup. A bug? I asked, feigning concern. We'd like your help resolving it. Is this a freelance opportunity? I replied. Or am I back on payroll? Silence. Then a sigh. We can discuss that when you're here. I made him wait another hour. When I walked into Ashbridge headquarters, it was chaos, alarms, engineers pacing, panic thick in the air. Charles waited in the boardroom. His tie was loose, his hair a mess. He looked like a man who'd just lost everything because he had. Can you fix it? He asked. I pulled a sleek USB from my coat pocket, set it on the table. I can, I said, but we need to talk first. You think you're in a position to negotiate? I leaned in. I know I am. What followed wasn't a conversation. It was a reckoning. You removed me without a conversation, without notice. You didn't just fire me. You tried to erase me. And now the system you wanted to show off doesn't trust you, because you never earned it. His mouth tightened. What do you want? I smiled. Full recognition as Nexus Core's architect. 25% equity in the platform. A seat on the board. He paled. The board will never... They will, I cut in, if they want a demo tomorrow. Silence. You planned this. No, I said. I protected it. It took 3 hours. Legal drafted the contract. My lawyer reviewed. We signed. When Charles tried to lower the equity to 20%, I stood and walked toward the door. If the contract doesn't match what we discussed, I said, hand on the knob, the system stays down. And so does your company. 5 minutes later, the final version was in my hand. I slid the USB across the table. This will restore functionality, but it also initiates a protocol. From now on, every administrative change reports to me. If you try to sideline me again, Nexus Core will know, and it will respond. He stared at the USB like it was radioactive. Understood, he whispered. As I walked away, heels clicking. Across the marble, Charles called out, Tessa. I paused. You could have burned us to the ground. Why didn't you? I turned slightly. Because I didn't build Nexus Core to destroy things. I built it to protect them, including myself. The elevator doors closed. The next morning, I walked into Ashbridge through the front door. No visitor badge, no escort. A signed agreement in my bag, and a future they could no longer deny. Some employees looked away. Some nodded. Eli met me near the dev pit, eyes wide. You really did it, he whispered. I'm not here for revenge, I said. I'm here to make sure no one ever touches Nexus Core again. He system remembers. They didn't understand what they were holding. At least that's what I told myself. But the truth, some part of me did want revenge, not in fire and fury, but in something colder, recognition, to be seen after 8 years of being invisible. And when I walked those halls again, knowing everyone now knew who I was, it was hard not to feel the thrill. Charles didn't look at me during the investor demo. He gave his rehearsed speech, automation, scalability, innovation. But when he introduced Nexus Core, something changed. And now, he said, jaw tight, smile forced, I'd like to introduce the system's original architect, our co-lead developer and strategic advisor, Tessa Monroe. There it was. Not just a name, a title, acknowledgement, validation. The room turned to face me as I stepped forward. Good morning, I began. What you're about to see isn't just software. It's a system designed to think, adapt, and most importantly, protect. Not just from external threats, but internal ones. Nexus Core isn't reactive. It's predictive, and above all, it remembers who helped build it. Eyebrows lifted. I didn't care. I wasn't there to be subtle. The demo ran flawlessly. 5 complex simulations, 0 errors, real-time responses. When it ended, the room erupted with energy. Investors, swarming Charles, but more than a few came directly to me. They finally saw it, the architect, not just the asset. Later that afternoon, Charles summoned me. "You made an impression," he muttered, eyes still on his screen. I wasn't trying. "To impress," I replied. "I was doing my job." He looked at me then, tired, wary. "Some board members think we should keep you more involved, officially." "And what do you think?" I asked. He paused. "I think you're dangerous." I smiled. "You should have realized that years ago." I didn't wait for a response. The weeks that followed were complex. Whispers in corners. Meetings I wasn't invited to, but heard about anyway. Some thought I blackmailed my way back in. Others avoided me completely. That was fine. I didn't need approval. I had oversight. And I had Nexus Core. One afternoon I noticed something. Strange access patterns, encrypted file pulls from restricted admin folders, all traced back to finance. Someone was trying to replicate the system, not sabotage, not alter, copy. I confronted Charles the next morning. "Why is someone in finance pulling Nexus Core code?" I asked, dropping the audit logs on his desk. He didn't blink. "I'll look into it." "No," I said. "I will." That night, Nexus Core pinged me. High threat alert. Internal. Breach. Critical risk level. Someone was trying to steal my work. But they forgot one thing. I'd built the system to fight back. I set a digital tripwire, harmless bait hidden in a packet. When touched, it would trigger a silent alert and feed the intruder false data. At 2:41 a.m., someone took the bait. The credentials? Rachel, Charles's assistant, the one who called. Me the night I was fired, the one who smiled every morning since. I pulled her full access logs, over 40 unauthorized pulls, outbound transfers to a domain registered to Ashridge Ventures, a shell company I'd never heard of. Registered to Charles, with Rachel listed as co-founder. They weren't just cutting me out. They were planning to steal Nexus Core and sell a clone, without me attached to it. But this time I wasn't alone, and I wasn't just defending myself. I was protecting everything.